Hello, everybody. Thank you. Any questions? I'll be available later. My name is John Hann. I work for a company called Pivotal. You probably know us from some product or some service or some division of us somewhere. I am the resident JavaScript barbarian. Figure out what that means on your own. Actually, I work for Pivotal's Frameworks and Runtimes department, one of the many departments, and these are some of the projects that we work on within the Frameworks and Runtimes department. I'm very proud of these, all open source. There's lots of other ones, private source, private products and whatnot. And specifically, what I work on a day-to-day basis is the Cujo.js toolkit. So you may have encountered one of these in your travels or in your programming endeavors. But anyways, I'm not here to talk about any of that stuff. I'm here to talk about JavaScript, of course, because JavaScript is awesome, and that's why we're all here. And actually, JavaScript has become incredibly sophisticated. I mean, we all know. That's why we're here today. You know, we're doing all sorts of crazy things that a couple of years ago nobody thought we were going to be doing. You know, we're doing AOP. We do dependency inversion, versional control. We do have all sorts of crazy architectures. We're doing things with other languages, transpiling to them. Integrating with things like, you know, obviously it's a multi-language environment in the browser. We got HTML, CSS, all this stuff. We got package managers now. You know, we got minifiers, optimizers, builds. You know, which really was a WTF for me. But anyways, with this sophistication, you know, comes more complexity and, of course, more machinery. You got to set up all this stuff. You got to configure all this stuff. And when you configure all this stuff, now you've got a maintenance task. You've got a whole new sub-project just to have a JavaScript-based project. And this is what I mean. When I realized that the good old days are gone and we can't just, you know, add a script tag to a minimal HTML file, you know, and now we have to actually, you know, build stuff in order to have an application, that was a big WTF. So what happened to the good old days? What happened when we could just do this? We could just add a script tag, maybe a style sheet, and just get started coding. You know, if you want to do a quick prototype, you know, this is what you did. You just, you know, you just quickly created an HTML page, created a JavaScript page, linked them together, and then just started coding, right? So, you know, now if you actually want to do that, in order to do that, you kind of have to write crappy code. That's my opinion, of course, you know, but if you really wanted to prototype something and you want to do it in an architecturally sound way, you want to do it with your favorite framework, or you just want to incorporate some, you know, of the current best practices, you can't just get started like that anymore. So in order to do it the right way, you either have to have lots of boilerplate, lots of configuration, lots of machinery, and it's just too much work in general. And in my day job, you know, we were encountering this problem, trying to create tutorials. Part of my job description is to create tutorials so that the Java folks out there can learn how to use JavaScript, and that's an impossible task on its own. But then on top of that, if you have to, you know, you have to explain to them, okay, first you have to set up your grunt file, your gulp file, and then, oh yeah, if you want to use AMD, you know, you have to set up your AMD config and stuff. It's just way too much stuff. You can't quickly, you know, you can't get someone to the meat of the problem quick enough now because configuration is too complex. So here's just a quick example. This is an actual project that I was asked to consult for. They started out with a 500-line grunt file, and we said, whoa, 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 this is way too much. You guys have to be doing something wrong, right? So we went in there and we looked, and the first thing we said, you know, you guys need to choose a module system. All this global stuff, you know, number one, you shouldn't be using globals anymore, and B, this is going to cut out so much of your grunt file. Well, it only cut out 100 lines of the grunt file, and then, of course, they ended up having to have an AMD config file, which was 70 lines of code. So here's the grunt file right here. Yeah, so this is the grunt file, and this is all you know, they did their research. This is the best practices stuff. You know, they're minifying all their things. You know, they're using less and pre-processing it. You know, here's their, you know, main.js so that they can have AMD modules in the browser. And then you know, the testing config. You know, then they had to have testing config. And this is actually the pared down testing config that they had. So can we simplify this mess? And my answer is yes, we need to. And if you've been coding in Java recently, I don't know if anybody has, but you know, this code that I'm showing up here reminds me a lot of, you know, Maven code or XML files, or the stuff that you used to have to do in Java. And I say used to because there's some new projects out there, one of them from Pivotal, Spring Boot, which eliminates all of it. So you basically have no more XML, no more, you know, configuration. You just get started. And so, you know, my bosses come to me and say, what the hell, why do we have to do this stuff in JavaScript still? So now my job is to try to eliminate all this configuration mess that we have to do in JavaScript. So that's where Rave comes in. So what is Rave? I'll tell you right now, it's not a new framework. It's not a Rave global you're going to code to. You don't have to require Rave in your code. Actually, we're not going to touch your code at all. So it's not another loader, it's not an AMD loader, but it does have a loader built in. Actually, it has an ES6 style loader, and it uses a shim built by Guy Bedford, who's here somewhere, so pat him on the back next time you see him. He's doing an excellent job on an ES6 loader shim. So it's built for the future. You can load things like AMD, you can load CommonJS. Pretty soon you'll be able to load ES6 in Rave, and you can load other things too. A lot of the things you're used to loading, if you're using AMD now, you can load CSS, text, JSON, whatever. But unfortunately, it's not ready for production yet. You know, you can play with it now, and we have gotten probably about 1/3 of the way to where we want to be, and at about 2/3 of the way, we're going to say, yes, this is ready for you to use. So probably about another 4 to 6 weeks. I'm going to try to get it in less than that, but we'll see. And we want your feedback. That's why I'm here today. I want feedback. I want you guys to come tell me and say, this sucks, you know, this is not the way we want to do things, and we're going to try to accommodate you and accommodate the people that maybe love it. So, okay, so what are we trying to do? In 3 bullets, provide a default, you know, instantly out of the box configuration. You install Rave, bang, you've got something to run. You've got an app. It's a simple app. It's basically a Hello World app. But you've got something, and you can just immediately start doing something. Make it easy then to get sophisticated. You know, start doing things like the advanced testing, install your favorite framework, start doing transpiling and that kind of stuff. Make it brain dead easy to start doing that, and then make it easy to assert your own opinion. Again, we don't want to, you know, we have to impose some opinion, but we want that to be extremely minimal. So. One of the ways to get a default, you know, runnable configuration is through something called a Rave Starter. And basically, it's just a repo on GitHub. You just go and you download it, and you just, you know, follow the instructions. It's very simple instructions. Just then launch your favorite browser, open up your favorite editor or IDE, and you get started. But there's also a way to start from scratch. And if I have some time, I'm going to show you both methods, actually, how to start from scratch just by typing in npm init or bower init, and starting from there. So the way this works, the reason there's no build step is because the runtime by default is responsive to the environment, and actually auto configs based off things it can find through the browser. And so you're in this mode, and if you're used to require JS and AMD, you just write code, reload, you know, repeat. You know, write some code, reload, write some code, reload. There's no build steps in the default AMD configuration. And so we've reproduced that, but in a much more sophisticated way. So then if you want to get sophisticated, we want it to be a one-liner, very easy to move over to now you're building. And then, you know, of course, when you're building, now you've got file watchers, you've got preprocessors, you've got transpilers, you've got, you know, bundlers and builders and all this sophisticated stuff, and that comes with source maps and all these things that could go wrong. So we want it easy to go back again, and you'll be able to go back and forth into whatever mode you want to, and still zero configuration. And then, of course, tests. We want it to be brain dead easy to start tests. We're not going to write your tests for you yet, but obviously, you know, testing has got to be an important part of the strategy. So when you want to assert your opinion, of course, we're not going to tell you what to write. We're not going to write your app code for you. That's up to you. But if you decide that you want to use Angular, we want you to be able to just bang one line, you're starting to use Angular. If you want to do something crazy like this, I don't know if something like this exists, but if you want to use Knockout and Backbone together, I don't know if that could even happen. But if you wanted to, we wanted to make possible for someone out there to create what we're calling a Rave integration package to allow someone who's figured out how to make it work to just push that out onto the web, and then you can pull that down and use it. So then if you want to add other capabilities like browser capabilities, you want to start using web components, or you want to start using the loader to load things that besides just modules, you can do that as well. And of course, we want this to work in multiple environments. So Spring and Rails are the ones that internally we need to get working. So, okay, so how can this possibly work? And the answer is through metadata. So we're going to, by default, if you install a starter, we're going to provide a minimal amount of metadata for you already. And this metadata is going to be in bower.json or package.json. And then, if you knew it or not, you're already generating metadata. So for instance, every time you do a Bower install, you've pulled some more metadata down with that package. Or anytime you do npm install, you're pulling down additional metadata. And all you have to do is include the -- save. Everybody look at the -- save. Okay, do we see the -- save? As long as you do that, you've pulled the metadata in a way that's now discoverable. And it's discoverable without searching your file system. So that's very important for, for Rave to be able to auto-discover, for it to be responsive to the environment. And then, as I mentioned before, people will be able to create these integration packets. So you could just do Bower install or npm install, my favorite integration package that pulls this, and this together and install it. And that comes with additional metadata. And actually, there's an opportunity to pull in additional glue code as well at that point. So other Rave extensions, we actually have a number of extensions out there already. We've got 12 or 14 extensions out on npm and Bower at the moment. So, of course, you'd be able to, install some crazy integration package. We have a Rave Angular package out there already. We've actually started work on a Polymer package. And actually, most of the ones on the screen don't exist yet, but they will soon. So then, what's the easiest way to allow a developer? What is the one-liner that someone needs to type in order to make this work? So we're thinking, okay, so we could create a Rave CLI, and that's an interesting idea. With the Rave CLI, we can remove the guesswork. We can do a lot of intelligent things, because right now, if you're mixing npm and Bower, which is possible with Rave, you can get yourself into these really nasty situations. So we're thinking about a Rave CLI, and that's one way to do it. But we also, at the same time, we don't want to get in your way. We don't want you to have yet another CLI if you don't want it. So anything we do will also be possible with the command lines you're used to: npm, gulp, grunt, and Bower. Okay, so this is the part where I'm going to attempt to do a little bit of coding and show you what this is like. Okay. And my cheat sheet has disappeared. Okay. Okay. All right, so just to try and illustrate how simple this is supposed to be. Can everybody see that fine, that terminal window? Do I need to up that? How's that? Is that good? All right. So I'm going to make a directory, and I'm going to cd into it. Okay. So this is the bootstrap case where you're just going to start from scratch. So I'm just going to type npm init, and I'm going to accept just about all of this. So what's happened now? I've created a package.json. Simple enough. Okay, so I've already generated some metadata there just from doing npm init. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to install Rave, of course, That's what I'm going to do. And, oh, not bad. Everybody stop checking text messages. Okay. All right. And for fun, I'm going to install an additional Rave extension that allows you to load text through the module loader. All right. And let's see. Okay. So I'm just opening up my favorite editor. And you can see that, you know, I've generated some metadata here. Rave and Rave load text are now in here, and these are now discoverable by Rave. Okay, and I'm going to quickly create an index.html. And I'm going to give it a one-liner. Okay, so that's it. And I'm going to create a main.js. If you noticed very quickly, I typed in main.js when I was doing npm init, and it asked me what the name of the main entry point would be. So I'm creating something there. And now if I am just going to serve this folder under port 8082. That's what I'm going to do. And it did not work, of course. All right, let me just see what's going on here. I have a feeling that Chrome is lying to me here. Let's try this. 8083.
You didn't save your index.
I'm used to, yes. I'm used to an editor that, I lied, this is not my favorite editor. I'm used to an editor that autosaves, okay. All right, so console, and yes, we have a yay. Ignore those 4 for now. I'll show you how to get rid of those, okay. All right, so not that interesting, but that's the startup experience. I'll show you a more sophisticated application, let's see. Okay, so. And let's see. I am going to attempt to pull something down as a tar file here. Let's see how this goes. And it worked. All right. So I'm going to install a starter package here. Okay, so if you're watching, this is installing a few things. I installed a Rave Angular starter package. So, and if we look here, you can see that we've installed a couple things, Bower Angular and Rave Load JSON. But you can also see that we've got some other things that transitively got installed. And we've got a minimal index.html here and a minimal boot.js file, which is just a bootloader. And a minimal main, which is, this is a common JS formatted file that is actually bootstrapping Angular. And if I come over to the browser here, and let's see. Let's do this on port 8082. The reason I'm using different ports is because I had some problems with Chrome caching aggressively, and or my web server. I haven't figured out which one it is. Okay, so let's try this one. Here we go. Okay, so now we have an Angular application running, and I'm going to switch over to one more application here, and this application is definitely more sophisticated than the other ones. It's currently running on port 8081, so it's right here. It's just a simple to-dos application. I can add some to-dos. It's communicating with over WebSockets to another port on this machine. But let's take a look at it. And there's index.html here. And let's say, I've got, just quickly look here. It's just a very simple MVC type application. But let's say I decide that I want to incorporate CSS into my build process. So I'm going to stop using link elements, and instead I'm going to pull that in through my build and bundle that actually into the JavaScript. So I can do that because I've installed this Rave Load CSS Rave Extension. And now I can do things like require my CSS as if it were a module. And so I just switched over to that. Let's see, remember to save again. And I reload over here. And so now we can take a look at the elements here. And you can see that this is commented out, but we still have the CSS because the CSS got injected at runtime. And this all gets, so the CSS would actually get bundled into the JavaScript in this case. And so that's just an example of one way that you can extend the loader, extend the capabilities just by installing a package. So basically, it's right here because I installed it and I did bower install -- save. It's available there, and Rave can discover it and just know what to do with it. So, okay, so where is Rave today? Right now, we're able to load bower. Use bower and npm to pull down packages. We're able to load AMD style or Node style, common JS packages. We can load text files through the loader, CSS, JSON. We've got a whole suite of Cujo.js extensions out there, and we're very close to having the no configuration build story working as well. Like I said, probably about 4 to 6 weeks, and that'll be done. Also coming very soon, ES6 module syntax. Be able to write, in a very clean import, export type module syntax. It's probably still early because until browsers have implemented that, it's subject to change. But we'll be offering it anyways for you daredevils. And then we're working on some other things like Angular and integration even deeper. That's actually we actually have that started too. So I'm going to cut it off there. I've got plenty more to show you guys. If anybody's interested, come see me. I can definitely show you some more stuff. And any questions right now? I think we have time for a question or two. If anybody has a question, anyone? Yes. Sorry? Yes, it will integrate with Grails and or Spring. How that works, how much that is in Rave, and how much of that goes into Grails and Spring, I'm not 100%. Okay, so that's a good question. Like Grails people aren't going to they're not going to understand, why do I have to go install Node in order to build an app, right? So that's a choice, and we've been thinking about that a lot actually, and it becomes more obvious when you think of the front end as a separate application, right? But that's why I'm also saying that we also might incorporate some of that into the Spring and the Grail side as well. So for Spring, WebJars came up, but the way that WebJars is implemented, it can't work with this sophisticated level of stuff. It was really meant for browser globals, and there's some real nasty hacks in there for required JS. But we're also thinking about talking to them to see if they can overhaul WebJars. But right. Right, so use Grails instead of Node. And so, yeah, I'm definitely interested in that. It feels like a larger task right now because, like I said, we want to leverage Gulp and Grunt first and use the tools that JavaScript developers are using instead of just, instead of what Grails guys are using. So, but definitely, we've been talking about it a lot. And so we do want to do it. It's just not going to be the first thing. So. All right, thanks, guys.